what is your perspective, coming to a producer? What's your expectation of a producer? And then you mentioned beat makers and their different roles.
Um, as far as production, right? See, because when I started out, right, I was fortunate enough to start out with people that was really entertainers. If you guys are familiar with the Foursome D's and the Foursome C's from Staten Island, they was the originators, and they were so talented, but they was showmanship. You know what I mean? So I was able to learn my showmanship skills from Mercury from the Foursome D's, and then I was also blessed to early on to work with RNS Productions and RZA, and and producers like of that stature who are producers now. RNS and RZA are producers. Not, they make beats, but they're producers. So the process is a little different. It's like we sit in a room and how feeling check how you feeling, what kind of vibe you in, and we both are in the same moment, and then we create from the foundation up, from the first snare and kick to the first word, and from then on, the process begins of creating a song.
Oh, I love
That's
that.
that's my ideal way of working.
Yeah, I love that you're finally shedding light because, again, our issue is that we stay in our rooms, our basements, our parents' basement, and we just crank out a bunch of stuff, but we don't understand the other side. So I want to ask you, like, let's get into the craft for a second. Do you flow as the producer is like making the core rhythm? Like you flow to it, so they leave a little bit of room for you?
Yeah. So for me, again, it's ideal because not every situation comes out like that because of time, and some people are just geographically on different sides of the planet. You know what I mean? And we want to create. So you get the typical beats in the email and you create off that. But again, it's trying to match the energy that they was at, you know, opposed to creating the energy together, if that makes sense.
Right, like co-creators versus. Well, you had a good metaphor actually. You said it's like adopting an orphan, for example, a father,
Yeah.
fatherless, motherless child, versus raising your own child and bringing them up under you, type of thing.
Yeah. And then you think about it, right? And not being funny, right? Naturally, you're going to treat your biological kid just a little bit better than the one that you got from adoption or whatever. Not saying you're gonna love any kid less, but no. You're definitely gonna uh, love your biological kid that was made out of love and passionate and sweat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, literally. And I went, I gained so much empathy for you because I heard all your different stories and, the stories of your family and your parents and the stuff, the hard stuff that you had to go through and like the trauma. I want to really later in this live, I want to talk about how you dealt with trauma and getting out of that anxiety. Because I'll tell you why. In music, mental health is just that one thing that nobody really covers. There's only like one representative, Curtis King, who talks about it a lot, but we don't ever bring that to the forefront. The audience kind of wants us to be in that mood so that we can make 808s and Heartbreak or,
Yeah,
that type of album. But I want to definitely tap into that because, trauma was big with me and I want to tap into that later though.
yeah.
But going
Well,
back,
well, that's also what my podcast is about. The rugged road to recovery is just all about recovering and dealing with, abuse, all types of abuse and depression, and everything you just spoke of or spoke on.
oh, see, we got something dope later because that's really deep. But I want to get back to the craft real quick, which is to say, you mentioned a lot of your mentors or people who brought you up. Can you explain that process of what they showed you, how, being so young around that you learned, with a different lens?
Yeah, it was a thing called artist development back many moons ago. It was called artist development, and you would have to work on each aspect of your artistry. So along with going in the studio and making songs, you had to equally dedicate time and energy and your ideas to your performance. You know what I mean? Your stage, what it's gonna look like when you're on stage, when you're coming out. All of this is just elements to this thing we call hip hop and music, or if it's rock or whatever, you have to have these all these components together. So not only do you have to be great at rapping, you have to be great at showmanship. Then you also have to be great at speaking, because you have to take these speaking lessons, you know what I'm saying, to learn how to speak and interviews, and you know what I'm saying, to be politically correct. You know what I'm saying? Because if you would have had the internet back in the 90s, woo, we had seen some stuff. Can you imagine that? All the hip hop beefs and all the great songs that was created, we would have had visuals of that. Can you imagine that? So the guys of this era is so fortunate that you're able to capture these moments in real time, opposed to starting out when I did. We'd be lucky if we find a VHS tape or a old those little disposable cameras. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the only way it was captured back then. You know what I'm saying?
Wow, that's deep. Because I remember you said, oh, sorry.
Oh, excuse me. When it was analog, you know what I'm saying? Everything was hardware. Right now it's software, and people got in their emotions a little bit. So it's the same thing with the technology going from hardware to software. Same way the music went from hard to soft.
Oh, see, that's now we're getting into metaphor.
It's kind of software right now. So if we on the analog, we still on analog time. We still hardcore. We still got the big reels, when you had to have the big old reels and the ADATs and things like that. You know what I'm talking about?
Right. That's actually a really good analogy.
Make sure you save and like this video. And if you want the full length, just go to YouTube/BusyWorksBeats.